am Alexander B. Stevens. This is the brand new up-and-coming podcast entitled, What Is He Thinking? The sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes politically incorrect, but always sincere and truthful podcast for the benefit of women from the perspective of men. You've got questions? I've got answers. What's going on? This is Alexander B. Stevens in your ear canal once again for another edition of the What Is He Thinking podcast. Episode 18, part 2 of the Married Men's Roundtable, and part 5 of the marriage series. If you have not listened to part 1 of this roundtable, I would suggest you stop this episode right now. Go back to episode 17, the previous episode, and check that out. Then come back. Without any further ado, let's jump right back into the middle of the Married Men's Roundtable, where I interview 4 gentlemen, each of whom have been with the same woman monogamously for over 16 years, with at least 9 of those years being within the confines of marriage, and listen to them discuss the ins and outs of marriage. All right, gentlemen, another question. When you were dating the woman that would become your wife, during that dating process, was there any one incident, one question, one item, one moment, one tipping point that lets you know internally that this woman that you're with is the woman that you need to spend the rest of your life with? Or did you decide to marry her based on more of an accumulation of things over time that she just proved, did, or had that led you to the conclusion that you need to go ahead and start saving for a ring? Reyes, what do you got?
Well, shoot, I'll be candid about 2 moments that stick out. One they didn't really tip me to marriage, but it tipped me to like, this person's a little bit different. The first one was, after we first started off as a long distance relationship. We lived about an hour, we lived about an hour and 45 minutes away from each other. Before I left to go back to school, I asked her if she wanted to try the long distance thing and everything like that. Cool, she agreed and everything. We kissed, and then I got directly on the road to go back to school. So anyway, I got to my apartment later on that evening, and I had an old friend come knock at the door. Evidently, the reason I say evidently is because evidently when she came over there and knocked that night and banged on my door and everything like that, I totally slept through it. And if you would know, just the way my apartment was, my room is right in front of the door. So anybody knocking real hard, I would have easily woke up and heard it. But for some reason, I didn't wake up during this moment.
Oh, okay.
And another reason was, during Christmas 2005, she ended up giving me a Bible as a gift. And I promise you, I never got that from nobody else I was ever involved with.
You didn't take that as a low-key diss? Like, you need to straighten yourself up. Here's a book that you might not be familiar with, sir.
Well, no, because that was the person that she started dating, so that's who I was. And if she agreed to it at the beginning, hey, you should like it now. So I didn't think of it that way. I just thought it was just different. And then she had wrote a little passage in there, and I wish I should have brought it next to me so I could have read it, but it was just different. She cared more about me than, anything else. Yeah, man, I tell you, when a man realizes that a woman is down for him and is truly in his corner, there's not too many feelings better than that. Carl, talk to us about your tipping point.
I say there's no real tipping point. It's kind of a mutual agreement between me and her where, we've been together for a while. Like I told you, our total dating plus marriage time is, going on 20 years now. We got married, 9 years ago. So we've been dating for, roughly about 8 years at that point. And, we both kind of, knew that, hey, the getting to know somebody new phase, we know so many things about each other at this point. We've seen the lowest points, highest points. And, the attraction was still there. We figured that, hey, this is kind of the organic next phase in our relationship. We've been together, we've dated, we mutually agree we want to have a family, have kids, have a life, have a house, the whole, suburban dream right there. So we just got to that level of that's kind of teaming and partnership and say, hey, let's just make it official. You know, obviously there was some romance about it. I didn't just, you know, come with the papers, had to leave it, some gestures had to happen, surprise proposal, which was kind of not really a surprise, but we just kind of knew that, hey, we've been together for a while. Let's make it official. Let's try to have the order of, getting married, then have kids and that type of thing.
I tell you, if more people followed the order of operations when it comes to building a family, half the problems that this world has would evaporate. Anyway, Alonzo, what's the one thing that makes you want to propose to your wife?
I couldn't put my finger on one thing, just the whole way she was, man. Like everything was just like, I'll be honest with you, like the stereotypical biblical wife. Like she was on point, like, firsthand, I felt like she was a beautiful woman, right? And then just the way that she was like, I'm cutting off, I want to be serious with you. And then the way she took to like my family wanting to understand what's going on, just her whole swag, just not causing drama, easy to be around. I mean, I didn't have money. She loved that about us. We just did small stuff and hung out. We spent so much time together and it was never stale. And I was like, man, I couldn't imagine not being with her, you know what I mean? Even though we were young and we're still in college, but we studied together. Like I knew determination was there. There wasn't any like time we have to talk about, you need to focus because you're effing up in school and we got to get it was always there. The fact that, she's a first college grad in her family, had a tough upbringing with not getting a lot of support, working full time, interning, taking leadership roles. Like, I was like, man, it's like a mini CEO right here. Like, just ready for me. I learned, and she wouldn't believe it. I learned so much from her. And when I heard her speak, she could speak really well publicly, right? Get on a stage and speak like Bill Gates up there. It's crazy. And a lot of people have no idea and so it was mesmerizing, you know what I mean? So I can't say it was one thing. It was everything, man, to be honest with you, man. I was like, I feel like I got the whole package right here. I mean, I don't like to be shallow, but I like to look like, have a beautiful wife, be able to hold your own and do everything else, you know what I mean? And like put me up, why not, man? I was like, there's not a better option. I know my blessing has happened now. I'm not going to try to see if there's another one when I'm 30 or 40. For me, it was the right opportunity. And I'm kind of just a quiet, low key dude, man. So I don't need to be out there traveling the world trying to see what the Brazilians talking about, what the Dominicans talking about, what, Colombians, all that crazy. I think I would end up not being a good person probably after all these voyages, you know what I mean? And I would miss my opportunity.
You know what? That's smart, man. The reason the buildings in Las Vegas are so large is because too many people, after they do win a jackpot, keep playing and give their money right back to the casino. Once you've won, it's time to cash out your chips and enjoy the rest of your life. Anyway, Robert, talk to us about the moment that you knew the woman you were dating was the woman you would marry.
I wouldn't say it was one thing, but I kind of knew early on. I would say she passed a few tests, but those tests were more like she was nice. She was, of course, I felt beautiful. For me not knowing her, I asked a couple friends about her and she had a glowing reputation. So early on, I knew in my head, what I always envisioned, I had always envisioned myself getting married. So yeah, and early on, I knew she fit the criteria of what I was looking for in a wife. Now, did I also know that we were going to one day be married? Nah, it wasn't like that, But yeah, I knew early on that this could be something serious.
Okay. So it wasn't just one incident. What made you want to decide to propose?
What made me want to decide to propose? Well, you're talking to somebody who proposed very late. I proposed after 7 years of dating. But I would say the reason for that was that we were living in different states and I didn't want to get married and put that kind of pressure on a young marriage, living in different areas, So I didn't want to get married until we could live in the same city. But what made me want or know that I was going to propose to her was just, this is something I try to tell my little sister. This is something like every dude who's been in a relationship will try to pull at some point, and I tried to pull this with her. At some point, I must have been getting bored or I wanted to spread my wings or something, but, she has brought this up before. I started floating out there, I don't know, we may need to, take a little time, make sure we're making the right decision here, take a little break, make sure and she straight up shut that down. She said, okay, we can do that, but I may not be here for you once you've cemented that I'm the one or whatever. She's like, I just may have moved on. And when guys have tried to do that to my sisters, I have tried to say like, hey, one thing you have to have is self-worth and know your value. And so when I knew I couldn't just walk over her and even though at the time I didn't know that this is what I was trying to do, but yeah, when I tried to pull that move on her and she straight up shut that down, and it kind of cemented in my head that, hey, this is something I can't mess around with. This is something that I need to, give all my full energy, and it's no more playing games. And this was way before, I actually proposed. But yeah, that was kind of the, hey, we're in this for the long haul. And that was just one of the examples she gave to kind of let me know that, she was a woman to be reckoned with. So
yeah, kind of either you're all in or you're all out.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsor, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First off, it's free. Secondly, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Next, hey, you can even make money from your podcast with minimal listenership. I mean, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So this is what I want you to do. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So each one of you gentlemen have ample, extensive, positive experience in a monogamous long-term relationship. So I want you to lean on that wealth of knowledge and experience when you answer this question. What are 3 things that a woman has to do, have, or be in order to maximize the chances that she has a successful relationship? What are 3 things she needs to focus on, 3 things she needs to do, have, or be to give herself the best chance of having a successful long-term relationship? Robert, I feel like when we talked about this a month ago, you brought up something to the effect of conflict resolution skills being one of the more essential items needed for a successful relationship.
Yeah, I've definitely said that's necessary in just in a relationship in general. Now, that's something that I've learned from my wife specifically, but just because I grew up in a different way to kind of resolve issues, so she has taught me a different way. But yeah, man, the ability to be able to talk things out, and that's something we've had a long journey in. It took me a long time to be able to understand her language, and it took her a long time to be able to understand mine. But today we can definitely get through some stuff just through talking, and it's really necessary, especially when you have kids, because you can't be on opposite pages when you have kids, because they feel that energy and they will run with it and they will emulate you, or they will be scared, all these things, and you will see it, how quickly it can happen. So yeah, you gotta definitely be on the same page and be able to have a home that's free of a lot of angst. Okay, so yeah, conflict resolution, number 1. I think she has to be loving and committed. Those are like probably the 3 most important things, I think, for the relationship to be successful. Because when people aren't committed, they don't give their all. You're going to have to be loving to overlook things, and you're going to have conflict resolution to fix stuff.
Loving, let's elaborate on that a little bit. Loving in what way?
When you're in love with somebody, you overlook things. And sometimes that's necessary for a relationship to flourish. You have to overlook people's flaws. You have to give them the space to grow. So I guess that would funnel back into your earlier question about a finished product versus grow together. If you're not, and I mean this almost in like an overt way, if you're not almost coddling in a relationship, then angst can grow in the relationship. If somebody doesn't feel like they are being loved and nurtured in a relationship, you know.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Everybody, each party in a relationship needs to feel loved and appreciated at all times, or at least as often as reasonably possible. Otherwise, there's gonna be trouble in paradise. Alonzo, what's your response to the question?
Like I said, I like about my wife, man, they were very biblically raised. Now, I'm not saying you have to date somebody who's a pastor, you know, a youth minister and nothing like that, but someone who has like an understanding. And I say this because whenever there's arguments, these people tend to go back to their Bible, like, okay, there's always something there that can help me be level-headed and get through it. Because when you don't have it, it makes things really difficult, right? So that's the first thing. Again, I'm not like the most religious dude, and I could definitely do better. I'm trying to do better for my kids. And my wife's way more religious than I am. But having someone who at least believes and exercises at least a little bit of, like, you know what I mean, that type of behavior generally tends to lead the relationship to be, you know, but when someone like I would probably could never be with somebody who's told me they don't go to church. Like, it's not gonna happen. And I'm not saying you have to go to church to be a person, because there's heathens who go to church. But to me, at least I know there's some sort of commitment or wanting to understand and be a little bit better. So that has to be number one. For me, number two, drive, man. Like, I'm not trying to take care of somebody. I grew up with my mom working with my dad and putting this on. There was some points that my dad has been laid off. My mom doubled up on work while he went back to school, you know what I mean, to get his degree. So I need somebody who's not trying to sit around waiting for me to take care of them. Now, there's different circumstances when you have kids and stuff like that, or if they're disabled, I get all that. But an able-bodied person who's putting me out, like, if they grind, then I feel like I grind harder. I mean, and we shining together, you know what I mean? I love that. You know, if you have someone who's driven, I mean, you couldn't ask for any more than that. And just, I mean, I do think having someone that's just down to earth, man, you can do small stuff with. You don't have to stunt for people. She's okay doing small stuff. She's okay doing big stuff. She might even say, I don't even want you to spend all that money. Let's just do this. And let's, you know, when you have someone that's kind of like level-headed, not into what people say, social media is a killer for people, man. I've seen a lot of people get in fights with their spouses because they're not doing what this other person is doing. So I don't like all that. You know what I mean? To me, I like those three things. Have some understanding of the higher being, be determined, and just try to be just like a normal, down to earth person, man. No matter how fine she is, just like, I love that. So for somebody to be a good looking person that's like easy to talk to and everybody can, yeah, I think those things will lead you to a level-headed person. You know what I mean?
All right, so you want a Proverbs woman that is driven yet down to earth. So that sounds like
there you go.
Sounds like the holy trinity of relationship success right there.
Amen.
So, Carl, what are your top three things?
I think a woman, to get the best chance of that long-term relationship, marriage, partnership, whatever they want to call it, you know, it's a new world. Best chance is for them to know themselves, right? You got to know yourself and know what makes you happy. Because, you know, thinking that the man you marry or, you know, partner with is going to be the one whose sole responsibility is to make you happy. I mean, that's false, because, you know, human beings are individualistic. You know, dating or marrying you or my wife gives me pleasure. So there's a innate kind of selfishness there. And I think this other way around too. So, you know, if you're thinking that, I mean, number one, since we're trying to get to three, if you're thinking that, you know, you're going to marry and this husband is going to be solely responsible for your joy, then I think you got to really start to rethink that and think about the things in him that you want to get out of him to make you happy or to get you to the place of joy that you want to be. Other thing I think too is, you know, definitely tell whoever you're dating or your partner, you know, before it gets to that next stage, you know, the things that you want, right? And understand what they want as well. I think that communication is key. If you guys feel that you should just intuit what each other wants, I think you're going to be really disappointed, because us men, I mean, I can speak for myself, my emotional quota or quotient, whatever that is, my EQ in terms of just guessing, it's not very high, right? So I want you to tell me exactly what you want me to do today. Don't think, oh, you should have known to get me flowers. I mean, maybe at some point, if I've known your likes and we've had some kind of repetition of that pattern, then yes. But I can't just guess that this is what you wanted to do, how you're feeling. Men, we are more apt to problem solve, which is an issue. You know, sometimes a woman just wants to kind of vent or talk about feelings, and not really get a response or a fix, or we want to fix. We want to fix things or we hear things. But I would say definitely just be clear with your communication, say what you want, at least in the early phases, until you guys know each other long enough, then the man can just kind of understand you and know what you want without asking, probably guess. The third thing I'd say is just definitely, come into the relationship knowing that you're a team. And, in every team, there's roles. Everyone should kind of understand what they're responsible for, what they're going to take care of, because when you build a life together, it's not just about being happy in bed all day, just kind of chilling and just going on dates and all that. It's more about just the day-to-day, just kind of minutia. Someone's got to pay the electric bill. Someone's going to take care of this utility. Someone's going to take care of this one thing in building a life together. Because with a life comes, other responsibilities, keeping a home, raising kids, and, who's going to be the primary breadwinner, who's going to be out working more, who's going to be, kind of working less to kind of handle the kids' responsibilities, or how you're going to split that together. I think you all have to really have that talk. And, that way, whenever these things do kind of actualize, the kids come, the house comes, the bills start coming, no one gets blindsided, just kind of understand the plan from the beginning. Now, I know it's going to be kind of hard until you're in that situation, but I would say just kind of early on, you guys everyone should just try to kind of, just forecast where you're going, what you expect from the relationship. And, if you guys agree, then go forward. If you think you and him are not going to get on the same page, end it early. There's no point in being, unhappy for a lifetime or for a long term, and then just end up disappointing each other.
Oh, I see. End it early.
I agree with that. I really do believe that, once, before it gets too far and it gets to a point where you're just kind of enduring a relationship or just kind of hoping it's going to get better, if you can see that coming, there's no point in a life sentence of unhappiness. So if you see, and I'm talking for both sides here, guys or the woman, if you see this is not going to be something that's going to make you happy, don't pursue it further than the expiry date.
All right. Let's recap those top 3 things. Number 1 was know thyself. Number 2 was communication. And number 3, know your role, because you're on a team. Was that correct?
That's right. That's correct, yeah.
Reyes J, give us your list.
1, don't try to make your marriage based on what you see on TV or a fairy tale marriage. There's going to be ups and downs. So I would always suggest a woman to truly be herself. You know what I mean? Don't try to make your way something for your husband. Like, don't try to become a trophy type wife or anything. Be that wife you were when he got with you. You know what I mean? Of course, have your own goals and everything like that. But I'll truly just tell a woman, just be who you are. Through the whole thing, tell him, let that man know your thoughts, your dreams, your goals, and all that, so he can better help cultivate. Y'all both can help cultivate that relationship and help it grow. 2, be open to just anything and everything. Life is going to hit you hard. It's going to hit your relationship hard. But the one thing you just got to remember is that through this whole thing, that you and your husband are one. Like, it's you. Basically, got to have the me and you against the world type mentality. You know what I mean? Like, it's me or you, and it's nothing.
Tupac.
Yeah. But hey, Tupac was always speaking truth, though, when you look at it. Especially in this situation. It's like, I can tell you a number of situations that me and my wife had that we went through that you probably wouldn't even believe. And that we wouldn't even believe when we were going through it. But, we didn't break. We didn't let it come between us. Number 3, let's see. Always strive to make yourself better. And always be what you want to see. If you want to see support from your husband, then support him. I ain't saying he's going to get it off top, but eventually it'll sink in,
I like that. Be what you want to see. Yeah. I might have to put that on a t-shirt and put my name under it. So just know that I'm going to steal that right now. And I might throw you a couple pennies if it really blows up. So those 3 things were be yourself, be open and down to go through anything, because it's you against the world.
Yeah. And
then be the change, or be what you want to see.
Yeah, be what you want to see.
Sounds like a good podcast episode title for sometime in early 2022. Anyway, let's move forward. So each one of you have children. Reyes, you have 3. Robert, you have 3. Carl and Alonzo, you both have 2. So talk to me and talk to my audience. Tell me how being a parent has affected your marriage and what you and your spouse have done in order to keep the fire lit and make sure your relationship remains healthy. Robert, what's your perspective?
You know, I always tell people it changed me a lot more than her. She was always ready to be a mother. But it's funny because it's like each one of my kids chipped away at the, converting to dadism. It's just the first one, you can kind of still be out there, still go have a drink with the guys. The second one, I could still go have a drink with the guys, but I still had more responsibility come Saturday morning. Third one is like, all right, man, that's a wrap, There's always kids up at 6 a.m. They're trying to stay up as late as possible. No more late nights, around here. So yeah, on top of that, it's made us a lot closer because in that way, the more that your kind of exterior activities get whittled down and you have to spend more time at home, then you just either you get closer or you don't. I guess it would be very comparable to COVID time. So yeah, as a matter of fact, our lives haven't changed. I mean, that's a very privileged thing to say, but our daily structure hasn't changed much under COVID just because it's literally what we did every day before. The kids come home, we eat dinner, we get ready for bed, we go to sleep, wake up the next morning and do it all over again. So, only thing that's different now is that there's no extracurricular activities, everything's at home. So. Okay.
So are you and your wife doing anything, or do y'all do anything to try to make sure you're not losing your relationship while being parents?
Yeah, man.
Like, how do y'all keep the relationship fire going? Pre-COVID times, pre-COVID.
Oh yeah, we're definitely a big babysitter people. We don't live extremely close to family. We have some family that's about an hour away, hour and a half. So yeah, we have a strong relationship with our babysitters, and we get a lot of date nights in, a lot of going out to eat and stuff like that. So yeah, we definitely try to spend time outside of the house together. And my wife also, for her job, does a lot of traveling. Not a lot of traveling, but she has the opportunity to go to conferences now and then. And I almost always tag along just to get out of town, and we kind of hang out, get some time away from the kids and stuff like that. So
there was a couple that I knew, I guess you knew too, that I guess we used to go to church with. And I feel like I remember one of them saying that like every Friday night they had 4 kids, and every Friday night they made sure that it was date night, and they typically went to the movies on Friday night. So is it regular like that, or is it irregular? Is it once a week? Is it every other week? How you and your wife do it?
It was usually once every other week or something like that. Maybe not always that regular, just depending on our schedules. But yeah, most of the time it was every other week. Every week would be too expensive. Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. You can afford it. Stop being that way. Anyway, Alonzo, take the mic.
And it definitely takes some extra. It's like having like a part-time or full-time job, or having a full-time job, man. So first thing, man, you're putting someone above yourself, man. I wouldn't say above your spouse, because it's technically not supposed to be that, but you put both of those groups of people above yourself, you know what I mean? So you trying to grind and do your best for the kids, right? But like everything changes, man. Vacations now change, where you're gonna go and where, no more happy hour, or not no more, but you have to just be better at planning now when you have kids, right? And then on top of that, just your relationship, trying to understand them as individuals and them being different from one another, and really trying to know and just, understand what the kids' needs are separate from each other, while still understanding what your spouse needs. We break up responsibilities with the kids, and that just works out better for us. But yeah, man, when you have good kids, bro, it just makes you smile, and it's easy, man. My kids got, they got their heads on correctly. I think they're highly intelligent, but the wife and I, we put a lot of time into it, man. And that's why you don't see us out. We don't grind. We don't turn up a whole lot on a million vacations. Now we take them with the kids to give them that experience, but we put a lot of our energy into the kids. But we do try to take out time and go to the happy. So we have Fridays off, every other Fridays off at work. So before the pandemic, we would always use that time period to just go work out and get massages. Our happy hour started at 3, so we getting happy hour in. Kids have to get picked up by 5:30, so we got a good 2.5 hours to get it in, you know what I mean, or do whatever. We got the whole day, so we We know a lot of couples who have their Fridays off, they don't spend it together, or they change their Friday so they can have their me time. Man, I get there's me time, but there needs to be time with each other. And for me, me time, I literally can just, I'm gonna go here and just kind of take off. You know, you got to set your time because the kids are driving crazy. You know, you get to see all your friends, watch sports and understand what's going on. Me, any TV I turn on, my kids want to watch Disney. So I put it on Disney. I go to other room, then they want to watch Disney. Why are you leaving? Like, you got to be just ready to just really put a lot of your effort into the kids, man. But it's really cool because they'll talk to you through about movies, what they see, and so you got to put them first, man, as best as you can. That's all I can say.
Okay, I hear you. So it seems like you kind of have like, some people talk about date nights on Friday. Seems like you have a date day every other Friday that you and your wife just get to frolic around with each other. And
minimum, we have at least every other Friday during the day. Now, if something's going on, somebody's doing something that's more of a nighttime thing, we'll get the babysitter together. But we know with like no effort, we have at least a Friday to like, we can Netflix, chill, whatever the hell, you know, at least during the day. And then if there's actually like an event or something going on at night, we just get the babysitter and just do what we need to do.
Man, that sounds nice that both of you have a job so you can line up your Fridays and really spend that quality time together before the kids get out of school. Man, that's choice. Carl, how has parenthood affected you?
I mean, it's changed it. You know, it's definitely, you know, not just the two of you anymore. There's other people who are part of both of you, so you love them. But, you know, at the same time, they will take time away from you and your spouse or your, you know, your mate, whoever you're with, because they have full dependency on you for a good amount of time. For the first, you know, 3-4 years, they're almost completely dependent on you for their feeding, taking care of. So that's a lot of attention that, you know, originally when it was just, you know, the two of you together, that time and attention was just completely spent on each other. I mean, in an ideal situation. But, you know, with the kids, you have to find time. So you can't just, you know, wake up and fool around anywhere, all over the house like you used to, because, you know, there might be some prying eyes. At any point between the first 1 to 4 years where there's a toddler in the house that could, you know, open doors themselves, I mean, kind of that freedom, just kind of get romantic, isn't really there. Also, there's an exhaustion factor too, right? You know, you've done so many things just to cater to some other little souls. You get to a point where when it's, you know, you want some time to yourself to kind of recuperate. So all of that happens to just kind of change the relationship. So the second part of your question is, how do you kind of handle that, right? You just have to get, you know, very kind of academic with it. You got to schedule time together. You got to schedule date nights, things that used to be spontaneous, like, you know, just jump in the car, go watch a movie or go to dinner. You got to plan around that now, but you got to make sure you prioritize and remember that, hey, before these little tykes came, it was me and you, and these little tykes are going to go away in what seems like a long time, but, you know, I mean, 18 years ain't that long in the grand scheme of things. And so it's going to be back to just the two of you again. You got to make sure you have things in common, find ways to enjoy yourselves, enjoy what you loved about each other, try to keep that alive. So, you know, I can't say I figured it out because I'm still definitely in it with my, you know, my younger kids. So, you know, I'll have to kind of defer to somebody with more experience as like how it all played out.
So you said something about date nights. Is this like every week, every other week? Is this random?
Yeah, it's, you know, every week is, I mean, just being honest, is kind of optimistic. I say every other week is probably makes more sense because with date night comes a cost. You got to figure out babysitting, or you got to find like a relative who's ready to, you know, to watch your kids and all that. And my kids are a little bit older now. I mean, 6 and 3. So they're not like, you know, they don't need diaper changes or bathroom or help wearing their clothes as much. But, you know, there's things still that, you know, you'll be putting somebody out to come, you know, come watch your kids so you can just go get romantic. But as often as you can, just try to do it. But also, one thing me and my wife do a lot too is just kind of find time in the evenings, you know, after we put the kids to bed, just kind of hang out, watch like, you know, Netflix and chill, get some wine, just, you know, just that, make that the date night in the house. The one thing we're just trying to do is make sure that, you know, we keep each other the main focus. But not gonna lie, I mean, when the kids are really young, all that kind of goes out the door. I mean, there is no time for anything except, you know, changing diapers, you know, feeding and all kinds.
So when you have infants crawling around and toddlers running around the house, it's all hands on deck, complete focus on the kids. But once you get beyond that stage, you must make it a point to carve out time in your busy schedule for your significant other. All right, makes sense. Reyes, talk to us.
I think that's really just a challenge when you have kids, is finding ways to stay connected. Your day becomes consumed by the kids, from the time you get up, you're getting them ready for school or daycare or wherever you might be taking them. And then they're at school, you're at work, you're doing their job. Oh man, and then you come home, homework, cooking dinner. And then, like I said, somewhere in there, you got to find some time for your spouse. So it's just getting creative. I mean, whether it's, hey, we're leaving Friday night, go on a date, even though we got to be back Saturday morning, hey, that just is what it is. So it's always just trying to find that way to, stay connected and, find different ways to communicate, because it is going to change.
So what kind of advice, or what do you do? Is it date nights every Friday? Is it a trip every month? How do you make sure you keep that relationship nurtured?
In the beginning, it really wasn't nothing. I think that's what started making it hard for us before we realized we got to try to do something. So, even as we're going through a progression now where we're still learning ways to spend time together, communicate. But yeah, that's what it is. It's, little, and like I said, when it's date, it might be date night, date lunch, date breakfast. It might be me bringing her lunch. It's just all little, like I might say I spend an hour with her, but it ain't a consecutive minute, in other words. So it might be 20 minutes here where it's dedicated time. It might be another 10 minutes, 20, or I spend 2 hours with her out the day. It's not consecutive, and you got to be cool with that, but you got to make the most out of your time.
Got to be creative with it. Okay. All right. I'm understanding that. So, gentlemen, I really enjoyed our discussion this evening, and I feel like we could talk all night, but you guys got to get back to your families, and I got to get this podcast edited and released to the public. So I'm going to have to cut this marvelous conversation short. But I do have one final question, one last thing that I would like you to help my audience out with, and that is, what advice would you give to a newly engaged or newly married woman? Let's pretend she's a younger cousin or a younger sister if you don't have one. What advice would you give to help her know that she's either making the right decision when she's engaged and not yet married, or to help her ensure that her marriage has the best chance of happiness, longevity, and success? What say you, Robert?
That's the advice everybody gives you at your marriage. They say, like, you'll always get that old couple that they keep your business in your house or something along those lines. Yeah, that's something that I think is important, just because you can't let other people into your marriage. It's gotta be between just you and your spouse, and that falls under that commitment category. You guys both have to be committed to working together. So you gotta keep your house as one. So.
All right, keep your business in the house and stay committed. Anything else you tell? I guess you did have a sister get married not too long ago. Anything else you tell a younger sibling? Well,
my younger sibling is a counselor, so I'm sure she is the one who should be giving me advice. But yeah, I mean, it's always along those lines. Just, I think in today's society and just our access to so much stuff makes us uncommitted to things. So I think just harking back to just that, being hyper focused on being committed, being reliable, being awake or being aware of like what you're doing in a relationship. And that could also fall into the whole loving thing, Yeah, that's the little stuff that people I don't think about as much when they're trying to pick out a significant other. And I kind of feel like the looks and all that stuff is great, and I'm very attracted to my wife, but over the years, it becomes a combination of more than just like way more than just looks, and it's just so much more. And the commitment is a major factor in that, and it's hard to describe the bond you can have with somebody when you just know for a fact they won't do you dirty. Somebody always has your back and is always in your corner and will never ever turn on you unless you give them reason to, is a good feeling. So, and it's an empowering feeling. So that's why I feel like that's such an important thing.
The best way for a man to be all he can be is for him to know he has support and for him to be empowered. Alonzo?
I don't know. I like, women allowing you to lead. You know what I mean? I think to me, people try to make arguments against it. It's not like putting one person in their place or doing this or that. I just think that there's something special and it just makes sense for the man to leave, but he's got to listen to his wife. So my little cousin, always be a supporter of your husband, man. Like, men will do their best when they have somebody really pushing and helping them to grind. You know what I mean? That's what I think. And I think people got to talk things through, man. I know women like to talk to the men, but sometimes they talk at them and not like trying to understand. So like, that's the issue. The women will talk at them. The men don't really like to say anything. They don't talk. And then the dude has stuff built up. And when they talk again, he blow up at her, and then shit always goes sideways in relationships. So I would do my best to understand your spouse and how they like to communicate, and communicate with them. Don't do that. We need to talk. Walking in front of the PlayStation, turn it off, and then trying to have a discussion. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. You know what I mean? Understand your spouse and talk things through. I think there's nothing that you can't fix between the two of y'all, short of maybe getting your ass whooped or something like that. But, don't be quick to try to call it quits. Never go to sleep mad at each other. Understand each other's communications and talk things through, because too many people give up so easily. And, that would be my advice to my cousin. Like, if you married them, then there was something about them you really were into, and you got to keep remembering that part when things get a little bit difficult or something bad may happen. You know what I'm saying? Remember that, because sometimes you hear spouses and people after they marry and the way they talk about them, you're like, man, I can't believe you love this person the way you're talking about them.
Yeah, it's like, your spouse is a reflection of you. So if you're dog talking them, then what does that say about you? You feel me?
Man, that's a good point too. Never talk about your spouse, down about your spouse to people. That's the thing I've seen other people do, right? And then you thinking they break up, then they back together. You don't know how to treat the other person. You're like, never. Like, find you a therapy now through your works, benefits. It's free. Talk to someone who's neutral and can let you know what's going on, and not your homegirls that's going to end up ganging up on you, dude.
All right. So the advice to the little cousin would be, allow the man to lead, be supportive, and learn each other's communication style and communicate effectively and frequently. Is that a good?
Frequently, yes.
Good summary.
Exactly. That's what I would tell my sister.
Good stuff. Reyes?
The best thing I can say is make sure that you're in control of your relationship through the whole time. And what I mean by that, don't let your family meddle in your relationship. Don't let them tell you what to do. Don't let them dictate your thing that happened in your relationship. Try to stay in control, even though I know that's kind of hard to tell people to keep their opinions to themselves about your relationship or your significant other. And also, I would tell that person, if it was my family, not to go tell, well, I guess this goes both ways. If you're my family or if you're not my family, to not go tell anybody that you're close to any kind of bad things about your significant other.
Like Alonzo said.
In other words, if your man messes up or they piss you off, you might want to handle that with your man instead of going to handle that with your friend. Because after so many times, your friend is just going to build up. They're going to look at your man a certain type of way, and if you told them all this bad stuff about him all the time, they probably won't think or look at him too highly.
Yeah, it's always when people like to talk bad about their mate to friends and family that, of course, are not in the relationship, but they don't want to dump them. Just like you said, the other person, they only get negative. They don't come to him and talk about that time that he lasted 3 hours in the bed. they don't tell him about the flowers, or they don't tell him that good stuff. It's just his most ratchet, negative, you know what I'm saying, the misunderstandings and all that. And of course, it's told from a slanted, jaded perspective. Mm-hmm. So, of course, that family member, that friend is just going to look at your mate like they're trash and going to want to be trying to pull y'all apart the next time y'all, go through a bump. So you definitely need to keep your mouth shut about that. I definitely would agree with you.
Yeah, because there's no reason for them to tell, especially if that's between you and them. There's no reason to. Go handle it with that person. I think that might go anywhere. Don't you think, Mr. Steven? Just to keep your family out your relationship, whether you're my family or not.
Yeah. You work at the church, right? The Bible does teach about how to handle conflict.
Yeah.
And step number 1 is to go to that person who offended you in private and to try to work it out that way. You don't wait on the other person to come to you. If you were the one offended, then you go to them first. And the thing is, many times people don't even realize when they have offended you if you don't bring it to their attention.
And I can promise you 90% of the time the guy doesn't know.
Yeah, good point. So, if nobody does step 1, but if we did step 1, then I tell you, there wouldn't be any TV shows or movies worth watching. because drama would be at an all-time low and half the problems of the world would be avoided or mitigated rather quickly. All right, that's all the questions I have for you guys this evening. I thoroughly, sincerely, deeply appreciate the knowledge, wisdom, opinions, and assistance you've given me and my audience this evening. Hopefully the experience for you has been just as enjoyable as it has been for me.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for having me on. It was great to have these thoughts and this discussion, trying to kind of clue women into how we think, at least how I think about things. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I like what you're doing. I appreciate it. I had a good time. I hope someone who's listening takes some of the advice and really thinks about it and puts it into play.
Appreciate you having me. I'm going ahead and put it out there before you ask. I'm coming back.
You're going to be back. All right.
Yeah, I'm saying it.
Thank you once again. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the Married Men's Roundtable. Hope you learned something, and I hope you have a better perspective on men's thoughts and feelings about marriage. If you have any other questions you want me to ask any of the married individuals, shoot me an email and I'll surely pass it along. And maybe in a future episode of the podcast, we will tackle your question. Before I wrap things up and conclude this episode, I just want to briefly go over the questions and answers that we discussed today. First thing was the question about, was there a certain specific incident that made you want to propose, or was it less simple than that? And pretty much each one of the gentlemen said no, there was not one specific incident per se that made them want to propose. It was multiple things over the years that made it crystal clear to each guy that they needed to go ahead and drop to a knee. But a couple of the men did tell us stories about specific incidents that let them know that the woman they were dealing with was somebody that was genuine and somebody that they had to take serious if they were going to deal with them at all. So I thought that was key. Second thing we discussed was the top 3 pieces of advice they would give a woman to ensure she has the best chance of having a happy marriage. Some of those pieces of advice were: be what you want to see, aka if you want more support, be more supportive. If you want more love, be more loving, things of that nature. Communication was brought up and how important it is to make your thoughts and wishes clear with your partner. One gentleman brought up having a biblical background, or at least some type of common higher ideology that you both have in common can help you out when there's disagreements. You have something that you both have previously agreed to and you both have esteemed above your own mere opinions that you can reference back to in order to solve some of your problems. Another good piece of advice was you both need to be satisfied and happy as individuals. Do not put the pressure of all your happiness on the other party. And the last tidbit of advice I'll share with you in this summary is your conflict resolution skills are very tantamount to having a successful relationship. The third thing we discussed was how parenting affected their marital relationship and how they're mitigating any type of negative effects it might have and ensuring that their marriage stays healthy. The ultimate conclusion is that yes, kids can become all-encompassing and they are very needy and require a lot of time and attention, but you must always be intentional about maintaining regular sessions of quality time with your spouse. Whether it's 20 minutes here, 40 minutes there, or intentionally getting the babysitters on a Friday or every other Friday and spending quality time with each other. You must make it a point to keep the flame lit, because if you don't, parenthood can overwhelm your relationship and then you'll wake up 25 years later and not know who you're sleeping in the bed with. The final topic we tackled today was the advice that they would give a younger family member, a younger female family member or family friend who was newly engaged or newly married. What advice would they give them to give them the best chance at having a successful relationship? One tidbit of advice was to keep the business of your marriage inside the 4 walls of your household. 2, it's important to be committed to the idea and the reality of commitment. Don't be quick to quit, quick to give up. 3, allow the man to lead. And I'll just add my little commentary to what he said right now. If you don't trust the man you're with's leadership, then you should not be with that man. 4, communication is key. Make sure you learn each other's communication style so you know how to get your point across and understand the point that they're trying to get to you, so you can be more effective and efficient solving problems and understanding each other. And lastly, make sure you stay in control of your own relationship. This advice is kind of similar to the first bit of advice, but don't let your family, your friends, or anybody else have any type of real influence over your marriage. That's your marriage. And since we're talking about family and friends, make sure to never speak ill of your spouse around your family or friends, because it will just build up a negative image of your spouse in their mind, which can do nothing but cause problems for your marriage and or your relationship with this particular family member or friend in the future. All right, that should just about wrap things up. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. And if you found any part of this episode helpful, thought-provoking, or intriguing, please share it with a friend. The more people I can help, the better I feel within. If you have any questions, any suggestions for new topics for me to discuss in the future, or if you need any clarification on anything I have spoken on, please just shoot me an email at whatishethinking@gmail.com. whatishethinking@gmail.com. Or you can send me a message via my Anchor website. All you need to do is go to anchor.fm/whatishethinking/message. anchor.fm/whatishethinking/message. Go there, leave me a couple words, and if it's constructive, I will definitely get back to you or keep your thoughts in mind when I record future podcasts. And never forget, I'm not here to tickle your ear. My only goal is to tell you what you need to know. I'm not here to offend. I just want to see you win with men. Well, until we meet again,